So we're officially going to enter into some muddy waters with the Logseq versus Obsidian comparison video. And a lot of people have been asking for this recently, so I figured now is a good time. Obviously, it's also the sort of video that lots of people like to see, so I might as well get into it. It's going to be a long video, but I hope it's going to have all the information that you need to help you make the decision, or just make you aware of what Logseq is and how it differs from Obsidian. So a couple of disclaimers. I'm obviously not an Obsidian expert. I have used Obsidian side by side with Logseq, not extensively. I've used Logseq extensively. I prefer Logseq, and it's helpful to say that up front, and I'm obviously incentivized by my own Logseq course, which I will give details at the end of this video, so that might color my perception a little bit. I'll be using Logseq to go through the outline of this video, and as I usually do, I share my screen and I'll show you the notes, but I'll also jump into Obsidian every now and again. But it's mainly going to be taking place from the Logseq interface. Now, it's important to clarify that this is not a winner-takes-all sort of debate. Both tools are working on the same backend of files, and we'll get into that, and you can use them both, as I will show later in the video. So don't worry, you don't have to ditch Obsidian or Logseq. You can use them both in this wonderful, happy harmony of tools for thought. The first thing that I'm going to look at is how the tools are similar. They both have the same DNA running through their veins to some degree, so let's have a look at that. So both tools are built on top of graph databases that use bidirectional linking to relate information to other pieces of information. Now, I think I should have added another disclaimer that I'm going to assume that most people who watch this video are familiar with bidirectional linking, being either a Logseq or Obsidian user. So yeah, I'm not going to go right into the basics with what all these things are. There's other resources for that. Now, what this gives you is a hypertext-like interface that enables you to click between different pieces of information. This is common to both applications, that I can click between things and use as hypertext linking. Then when I look at file storage, both are local first with a sync option. So what local first means is that the files are stored on your PC, and then both now have a custom sync option. So Logseq uses Markdown or org mode text files, and they have Logseq Sync, which is available for open collective backers, people who are giving more than $5 per month on the donation website. And then Obsidian has Markdown files only, so it doesn't have org mode files, and Obsidian Sync costs $8 per month. Okay, so having said that, the pricing comes next. Both are free forever for personal use. So if you're not using Sync, or if you're not using some of the other features which are priced, then you have the ability to use these applications for free, which is quite great. And that is one of the big draw cards, I think, of both Logseq and Obsidian. Okay, looking at operating systems and mobile apps, they both work across Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And then they both have mobile apps, so iOS and Android. However, for the Android app on Logseq, you need to download it via GitHub. You won't find it on the Play Store. Okay. Extensibility. Both of these tools have extensive plugin environments that enable you to add features on top of the core feature set that you get. And then community. Both of these have strong communities on Discord. And then the final point there, which is a little bit more complicated, which is why it's at the end, is transclusion of information. And transclusion just means that I can use a source of, or some information from some source, and reference that in another place, and I can also change it in the other place if I want to. So that's an embed. The reference is just, I'm showing the original text. So if I make an edit to the text in the original place, it will reflect everywhere else. Okay, so I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty and go into examples for all these things, but that's how the tools are similar. I want to then illustrate the major difference between the tools. So Logseq is fundamentally a block-based outliner. So you can see here that I've got these bullet points basically that show different blocks. And you can think of a block almost as a paragraph. That's one mental model to think of it. To illustrate this outliner approach, I'm going back to the full video description and showing the breakdown. So these are all the main sections in the video, but then what I can do is expand and collapse each of the different sections to show just the information that I want at any given time. And I can also zoom into this block over here So this is going into a specific block, and that outliner enables me to just see the piece of information that I want to see and work on this piece of information at any time. So I can go here and I can edit this over here. And if I go back, another way to illustrate this is just with this mark map plugin. And if I go to level 2 over here, it just shows this breakdown of this video in this tree-like structure. So now that's the main thing about Logseq. It is a block-based interface. So each of these is a block. Another important part about outliners is this inheritance of links. So this would be a parent block, which has got some children block underneath it. And if I specify some sort of relationship here or link, what it means is that this child block also inherits that relationship over there. Okay, so that's important. Now, Obsidian can do all of these things with plugins. It's important to put that caveat out there. I'm sure someone's going to give it some comments about like what Obsidian can do with plugins. Yes, Obsidian is very powerful with all these plugins, and you can have an outline Obsidian, but it's fundamentally a page-based editor. So what that means is that it's a long-form text editor. So if I go to Obsidian and I say create new file, I'm going to say example file over here, and then I can start entering in this example file. Okay, so this is some text. There are no blocks here. Okay. Now, if I wanted to make those blocks, I could make them blocks by just saying dash there and then dash there, and now I have the blocks, and I've got the outliner plugin, and I can say tab, and I can say shift tab, and I can do all the things that I'm doing in Logseq, but fundamentally it is a page-based editor, so you won't see these blocks from the start. There we go. It's just plain text like a Word document, theoretically. Okay, so that is the major difference. It sounds almost trivial when you look at it, but in terms of the way they work and the workflows that you can build in Logseq versus Obsidian, this is an important difference. Okay, so it's almost underwhelming. So we're back in Logseq, and I now want to look at where the tools stand out. This is obviously my opinion, so some may differ or someone might argue with this, but this is my view of the tools. Okay. Logseq has more native functionality out of the box. So when you install Logseq onto your computer, I feel that there's more power in the core program. And obviously you can do these things with plugins in Obsidian, but Logseq has them natively. What am I talking about here? It's got query functionality, so you don't need to add any plugins. You can just add queries in Logseq. It's got built-in task management functionality, and then easy access of linked references. So if I had to go back up to the page, or let me just say, yeah, let me go back up the page. I can go to the bottom of the page, and I can see here all the linked references. So all the times that I worked on this page, it's available there at the bottom of the page. Okay, you can do this with Obsidian, with plugins, but we're not talking about that now. So open source development. Logseq is an open source project. Now there's a core Logseq team that are doing the majority of the building, but anyone in the community can theoretically contribute to the code base. And if Logseq were to, or the developers were to theoretically fall off the face of the earth tomorrow, you could go get the code base and create a version of Logseq for yourself, or download a version of Logseq for yourself. From a longevity perspective, that means that Logseq will be around forever because the code is going to be around forever. And that's a major benefit to a lot of people. Okay, so the next thing is the block-based model benefits. It sounds almost trivial, but the block-based drag and drop, so the ability for me to like drag and drop that block over there and drag and drop that block over there, is a game changer for me. I still have not cracked how to do this in Obsidian, so if you know how to do that, please comment below. But what this means is that if I open up the right sidebar, that was using the shortcut escape TR, and if I want to move a block, for instance, I want to move it to a different page, I can literally click that block over there and drag and drop it. Okay, I didn't actually drop it there. There we go. And the second thing there is block-based retrieval. So if I go to a page, I can see all the blocks that are linked to that page, which is great. So it shows me, if I just go to some example here, let me go to Obsidian, for instance. here, and I can see there all the times that I have used the link Obsidian in my database. Now it shows me where I used it, so the page that I used it on was April the 5th, and it shows me the full breadcrumbs here of where I used that block. And here we go, a video that I watched with Danny Hatcher, some insurance performance results, block reference mechanisms. Those are all times that I've linked Obsidian in my database, and I find that block-based retrieval to be very powerful. This one is very subjective language. Let me close that there. The more intuitive user interface. Obsidian is a highly customizable program. There are multiple panels and menu bars, and it feels a little bit overwhelming at first, or at least it felt that way to me. And everyone's setup that I've seen looks different. So one side effect of this is the inconsistency of tutorials, and I'm sure you've experienced this if you're an Obsidian user trying to figure out what people are doing. Now, Logseq has a much simpler interface with the panels, the left sidebar and the right sidebar. So out of the box, simpler to use, although you can configure it with CSS as well. It's not as customizable as Obsidian. In my opinion, Logseq linking is easier to navigate. Showing those hyperlinks where everything opens up. I can open up in the main panel, I can open up in the side panel. That just feels easier to navigate. I go to the bottom to see my link references. You can customize all those things in Obsidian to do that, but out the box, Logseq feels more intuitive. And then this one is going to be contentious, but Logseq defaults to the daily journal approach. Okay, I feel like I'm caveating all the time. Yes, you can do this with a plugin in Obsidian, but Logseq by default starts you in your daily journal. Now, at first this seems trivial, and it probably annoys a couple of people, but what it enforces is a new way of working, where you start from your daily journal and you just use that as a scratch pad. Now this is some content from my course, and if I can actually just shift click open that up in the right sidebar there, over here, and yeah, every time you enter Logseq you are confronted with this equivalent of an A5 journal calendar, and this is sort of your scratch pad on the side of your page or the side of your desk, and that enables you to jot down things as they happen and then link them out to, or link them into the important places that you need to find them later on. So what this allows is very efficient input. So I don't have to think, where do I put this information? I don't have to think, okay, this is the page or this is the folder, whatever. I just go to my daily journal, I start typing it out, and then I add a link or a tag so that I'm able to find that information later on. Okay, so let's go to Obsidian to see the Obsidian wins. Obsidian, the page-based model will feel more familiar to some. So if you're coming from Microsoft Word or Google Docs, Obsidian's inclusion of the file and folder approach is going to feel more natural to you. So yes, you can have folders in Obsidian, and lots of people still like it, and there's nothing wrong with having folders, but I like the whole backlinked approach where everything is just organized by tags and links and in my outlines. So I use outlines a lot for my organization. But for a lot of people, this page-based approach is going to be more familiar. Okay. Speed/performance. Okay, this is undeniable. Obsidian is much quicker than Logseq. Logseq's performance has improved dramatically over the last year, and I'll get to that now. But indexing your graph and navigating to pages and using your graph view, it's lightning quick in Obsidian. Now, to highlight this, it's important to caveat this is at the beginning of last year. What this shows is the importing speed for a number of different files. And this is a little bit more probably, but at the top here, for 2,000, 5,000, and 10,000 files, Obsidian crashes it all in under 17.8 seconds. Logseq failed to import 10,000 files when this test was done. As I said, this was done in January 2022, so there's been a lot of development since then. But it just goes to show that Obsidian really is speedy out the box. Okay, the extensive plugin environment. Now, as I've probably alluded to, there's lots of plugins that can do everything, but there's a really cool differentiation where these core plugins that are supported by the development team of Obsidian, and that's a real win. And then there's a community plugin or a list of community plugins which can do absolutely anything you want. You can get a plugin for basically anything, and you can also stitch together these plugins to customize your workflows. So for some people who love tinkering with their workflows, this is great. For me, not my cup of tea. And continuing this point, everything is customizable in Obsidian. Okay, as I mentioned, this could be a con, and I'll get to that right now, But if you know what you're doing, you can configure your preferences and your themes and everything to just be perfect, exactly what you want. Logseq, not quite there. You're still limited by the interface with that left sidebar, the right sidebar, etc. Okay, the downside of this though, there's a proliferation of settings. If I go to my settings now, there's all these menus to try and get it to what I like in Logseq, or to at least be familiar to what I have in Logseq. And then certain things only work in certain themes, which doesn't feel very resilient, but I'm sure Logseq is actually the same, where some things don't work for certain themes, so it's probably not just a Obsidian drawback. Okay, the next one here is the Obsidian graph view. Obsidian's graph view is phenomenal. It's much quicker than Logseq, it's much more easy to navigate and search. There are plugins in Logseq, now I'm talking about Logseq plugins, which enable you to get to the same, well, actually similar functionality to the Obsidian graph, but hands down, Obsidian graph wins. Okay, and this is a very cool feature. Obsidian has an in-house publish feature. This enables you to one-click publish your notes to the web. This costs $16 a month, but for a lot of people that's worth it, and I cannot wait until Logseq has a similar feature. Again, there are plugins on Logseq side, but I don't like using plugins, so maybe this is why I started using Obsidian first. Sorry, Logseq first. Okay, and then the Markdown compatibility. Okay, let me go here. So whilst Logseq uses Markdown files, they're not always 100% compatible with other files. So let me open this up in the right, and then open Logseq up in the left. So just to say a little bit more, it strips out blank lines and sometimes there are inconsistencies, and I just play with that, it's okay. But it doesn't allow for multiple headings in a single block. So this is a block here, then there's some text, then there's another heading, and then there's a block. This is not how I want it to be. I want it to be, let me delete this here, and then shift enter there, and then enter there, and then putting this all in one block, and Logseq is unable to render it. It says here, Logseq doesn't support multiple unordered lists or headings in a block, and Obsidian does it no problem. So that's just something to be aware of. The Markdown is not always 100% compatible across different programs, whereas Obsidian is. Okay, I'm going to close this up. I'm going to maximize Logseq and jump into the next section. Why did I choose Logseq over Obsidian? Now, a lot of people have asked me this question, so I just figured I'd add this over here. I was looking for the familiar block-based interface of Roam. So I started using Roam, like a lot of Logseq users I think did. And at the end of 2020, I started sort of just like figuring out how to use it, but I wasn't using it enough to justify the $15 a month, and so I went looking for other applications. Now, to be honest, I wasn't even very cognizant of this whole block-based idea. I wasn't using block references, I wasn't doing any of that fancy stuff. I liked this outliner interface where I could see that block there, this block here, I can collapse it, expand it, zoom into that block. That's what I was looking for, and that's what I found in Logseq. And I didn't grasp the way Obsidian worked at first. Okay, so Roam was a cloud-based web app, and Obsidian was using local storage. Now, Logseq uses local storage, so how does this make sense? Well, Logseq bridged those two worlds for me. I understood how this outliner / block-based app would work on a local file system. So I could see the Markdown files and understand that what I was seeing on my computer or in the Logseq interface was working on my file storage system, which was a huge win for me. And when I bridged those two worlds, it was just fantastic. It worked out the box. I was able to do what I was doing in Roam and easily migrate everything over and run from there. Okay, and obviously I wasn't interested in the plugin environment in Obsidian. You can see I'm a little bit hesitant to using plugins. I do use them now. I use probably about 10 plugins for Logseq, but to get what I needed in the beginning, I didn't know how I would go about doing that in Obsidian, so that's why I just stuck with Logseq. My verdict, I feel like this goes without saying, I prefer the block-based outliner functionality of Logseq. The fact that it works out the box and that there's like more of this functionality, like queries accessible to you right from the get-go, that seems to me like a real big draw card. And there are still some initial hurdles to overcome when you are learning the application, and I'll speak more to that later, but the block-based outliner approach just works for me. However, I like working with them together. Now, all that I've said about the plugin interface. I have eventually adopted some plugins, and I want to show you how I use Obsidian to build my dive log. So if I actually just go here, Control K, and I say dive, let's see, my dive logbook. Let me just make this wider. All the dives that I've done. So I've done 46 dives. I'm sure I have more. Anyways, I haven't added them in. And what this is just a query that is looking at all the blocks that have a property dive number. Okay, so let me just turn this off so that it looks a bit better. There we go. Okay, so here I've got all my dives, and I could go and look at the dive dates, and I could look at the location. But now if I go to Obsidian, and let me go over here, I've got this interactive map view which comes from a plugin. And I'm going to zoom in here, and these are all the places that I've been to in the country, in South Africa. And over here, I can see my diving trip. So if I open up Sodwana Bay, I can see there the location, and I can see that I've got 36 references. This is using the Strange New Worlds plugin, which gives me some nice functionality. And I can see there all my dives in Sodwana Bay. I've just scrolled up to another place that I thought would be interesting. A few years ago I did the Camino de Santiago, and I took all my notes digitally, and I now have all those notes in here, but this is actually linked to another page. This would be linked to a date page. So if I just go to Logseq, and let me just say Laredo, because I saw that there, you can see there that I've added photos and notes from all those days, and it's all in Logseq, but it also interfaces nicely with Obsidian. So just an indication of the things that you can do. Okay, so this last point here, getting document mode in Logseq. When you enter, it always enters a new block, but what you can do is you can say escape TD, and that enters document mode. So now I start typing, now I type, and there are no blocks. So I think that will be useful for someone who is looking at Obsidian and thinking, oh, but I can't do this in Logseq. You can sort of, there will be a block over there. And if I open the file page, so let me just go here and then say, well, let me just go back to the full video. And if I open that with the default app, you'll see there that if I zoom in here, there is the original block over there, but then it's not entering any more dashes to enter new blocks. Okay. So let me turn document mode off and then go to some resources. A good resource if you're looking to get familiar with this blocks and pages approach. I made a full video which I break down in an analog way how to think about blocks and pages. This is a great article by TFT Hacker talking about Obsidian versus Logseq. There are the performance results that I was speaking about. So I'll add all these links below. And then just to get that outlining sorted in Obsidian, you can have a look at that resource which will be linked to below. Of course, there's also my course. If you're looking to learn Logseq and master these concepts, I have gone deep into Logseq, and this course took a long time to build. I was working on it over the whole of last year, and I'm still adding and refining things, so it represents all my knowledge of how to use Logseq, and it's all in there. It really is a zero to hero guide to using Logseq, so go have a look at that if you're interested. Great, so that's about all that I have to say about Logseq versus Obsidian. Have a look at the course, let me know what you think in the comments, be nice, and yeah, have a great day. Thanks so much for watching the video to the end. I really do appreciate your attention. If you'd like to support the channel in some way, have a look at Logseq Mastery, which is now available in two parts, tutorials and workflows and systems. Tutorials are specific to Logseq, but workflows and systems can be applied to other personal knowledge management software. You can also have a look at my Ko-fi page or the Linktree page for affiliate links. Thank you so much.